Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the F Y'all Podcast. I am your co-host, Michael Wright, and across from me, as always, is the man you came to see, the one and only, the legendary Superman from Compton, Mr. C.T. Fletcher. Pops, what's the word today, sir? How you feeling?
Man, I am always blessed. No matter what happens, what happens, I'm always blessed, and I'm especially happy and excited for our guest today. I ain't gonna tell you motherfuckers who it is yet, but I'm very excited.
All right, so before we get into that, just like we did on last week's show, we want to make sure that we are sending our thoughts and prayers out to everybody here in Southern California who was affected by the wildfires here. They are still going. Seems like they're starting to get them, some of them contained, but the fires are still raging and people are still being affected. So we want to make sure we send out our thoughts and prayers to everybody who was affected by these fires. Luckily, me and CT here were not personally affected, but we do know some people who lost their homes in these fires. So it is a serious thing out here. So, and we are hoping that it is not going to affect anything going on next week with the LA Fit Expo and Iron Wars. But as of now, everything is still a go.
Still a go. Still green light.
So make sure you get your ass on out here for Iron Wars and the LA Fit Expo next weekend. Iron Wars is January the 24th at CT Fletcher's Gym at Iron Addicts. Don't miss it. The greatest strength show on earth. You don't want to miss that one. And then Saturday and Sunday, we will be at the LA Fit Expo representing Iron Addicts brands and also the F Y'all Podcast. So make sure you come out, say what's up to the old man. And
right.
Yeah, we're going to have us a good damn time next weekend. But before all of that, we have a very special guest on the F Y'all Podcast today. I always say, like, I have been very, very blessed to sit here with you every week because as time goes on, we are now in season 2 of the F Y'all Podcast, and the guests just keep getting bigger and bigger,
better and better.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to welcome the man who I've always said, even before today, was one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen in professional wrestling.
Goodness, hell yeah. High flying ass.
Yeah. and a man that, as we get into the interview, I'm gonna tell you, like I told Terry Crews on the first interview, there's certain people that you are very envious of, and this man that we're about to introduce, I'm very envious of because he clearly has found a fountain of youth, and he needs to share it with the rest of us because
you ain't lying. Look at
this brother looked the same as he did when he debuted. What was it? I was on 24 years? 24? We 25.
Damn.
Ah, that makes it even worse. Damn.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the F Y'all Podcast, the one and only, like I said, the man who I say is one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen in the wrestling ring, Mr. Shelton Benjamin. Mr. Benjamin, how you doing today, sir?
Doing awesome, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Man, we are honored that you are here. So let me explain to you how the dynamic of this show works.
Yeah.
I do all the research and all the technical side, and Mr. Fletcher over here asks whatever pops into his brain at that particular moment in time. So this interview will go normally as he sees it. We may be doing a little jumping back and forth here, but we're gonna try to cover as much as we can in this next hour. So, Pops, you got anything you want to start this off with?
Yeah. I asked Mr. Benjamin before we came on the air. I said, Shelton, do you cuss? And he told me, not really. You know, he got cussed out a lot when he was a child, so he don't really. And he's a role model. And I think that is very admirable. But Shelton, I'm gonna tell you. If you get first of all, if you got a managerial opening,
he does not.
I'm putting in my application. I turn you all the way around, Shelton. I turn you all the way around, and I turn you. I said, look, he was Mr. Nice Guy for 25 years, and goddamn it, now he with my old ass, and we're gonna turn him all the way around. I put a mask on you. Yes, I call him El Pantero. El Pantero. And with that goddamn spinning kick you got, shit. I named that motherfucker the Panther's tail or some shit. Whoop that motherfucker around. And then as soon as you get up to the mic, I'm gonna fuck somebody up tonight.
That is the worst booking I have ever heard in my entire
Shelton,
life.
hey, you'll be the undisputed heavyweight champion. No time for that. Watch.
Mr. Benjamin, I'm going to ask that you do not listen to anything Mr. Fletcher says, because if you
first of all, let's make this clear. I'm a huge CT Fletcher fan.
Oh, man.
Trust me, I understand there's going to be some colorful language going on.
Okay, long as you know, I don't want you to go into this thing blind, because he may get you put off the air.
Hey, don't get me canceled, man.
If you try not to get canceled, you may not want him to be your manager. Two matches in, you be canceled. I can guarantee you that.
We'll skyrocket to the top of the rankings and no problem whatsoever.
Right.
You don't even believe that.
Hey, as soon as we get to the mic, fuck y'all. I'm here to beat somebody's ass. just start out like that. And then whoever's the announcer is, just slap him upside the head. Just slap the shit out of him. I'm telling you, man.
I like to think I don't have an explicit voice, but these hands, they talk.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. You can damn sure do that.
Actually, you know what? I had a flow to this show, but I want to actually start right there. Mm-hmm. I have heard so there's always talk about who are some of the toughest guys in professional wrestling.
Outside of
but recently, I've been hearing Mr. Shelton Benjamin's name pop up in these conversations. So, I guess most wrestling fans would say you have this, you seem like a very, very nice guy, but you definitely strike me. And I'm going to say this. We had Michael Jai White on this show a few weeks back.
Big fan.
And I'm sitting here with Michael Jai White, and I'm looking at Michael Jai White, and as nice of a guy as Michael Jai White is, I kept telling him, I said, he's got that thing in him. Like, if you push him, he will kill you. I get the same vibe from Mr. Shelton Benjamin. I get the same. You seem like a very, very nice guy, but if somebody took you there, you would, I don't even know what you would do to him, but it ain't going to be good. I can say that much.
See, Shelton, I'm just trying to get you to bring that to the top, see? You bring that out, because I know it's an ass beater. I know you're an ass beater. In and out the ring. I know you're a for real ass beater. And see, if I put that in the forefront, boy, we could go places, Shelton.
Well, it's I don't like to toot my own horn. I don't consider myself a tough guy, but I definitely know how to handle myself should the situation call for it. A lot of people are still surprised that not only was I Brock Lesnar's coach, but I was also a sparring partner. Like, I was the guy that had to get in there and go live with this guy for 3 hours a day, every day. And a lot of people find that surprising until you dig further and you find out, well, I was an amateur heavyweight wrestler my entire life. And I was always, the heaviest I ever competed in college was 217, but my weight class was 285.
Wow.
And I'm a two-time All-American, national champion, junior college, and all that. So as far as me being a tough guy, I just like to say I can hold my own. And the very few people that have had to experience that firsthand, well, I had a problem with them one time. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, however you want to describe a tough guy, but I've heard your name come up here a lot. Just Shelton is just one of those guys you might not want to tangle with, Mr. Benjamin.
I want to hear about that one time. That one time. That's what I want to hear about.
Okay, without saying any names, like my friends who hear the story it'll be familiar with them. But I was basically, obviously, as a pro wrestler, what I do is a performance, and we work together. But there are sometimes talents get a big head and they forget themselves. And there was one case where another talent came to me and my partner, and this is days before an event, told me what we were going to be doing. It was more of a matter-of-fact situation, like, and when we get here, we're going to do this. And it was something to make him look good. I think he wanted to pick us both up at the same time or something. But he was a smaller guy, and I thought he was joking. So I was like, nah, that's not happening. And he's like, oh, yes, it is. And Mike is a younger guy. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. And it's like, no, it's not happening. I'm still laughing. And he reiterates, oh, yes, it is. And this is how it's going to happen. And long story short, I didn't know the guy. At the time, I didn't know him. He was a younger guy. He was being very disrespectful, in my opinion. And basically, I told him, I tell you what, if you want to do that spot, if you take me down, you can do that spot. And he said, I'll take that bet. Now, mind you, I tried to give him the out. I'm like, look, I know it's pro wrestling, but my credentials are real. I'm a real amateur. I really am the guy that was taking Brock to the limit every day. And guys like you are exactly what I beat up my whole life. So I'm trying to give him an out. And he had a strong man reputation. And I said, I wouldn't challenge you to a bench press contest. Why would you challenge me to a wrestling contest? He's like, well, just because I have the ball to step in your world, you don't have the ball to step in mine. That's not my problem. I'm like, okay, that tells me everything I need to know about you. So fast forward a few days later, we get to the show and I said, okay, whenever you're ready to earn your spot, let me know. By this time, the entire company has caught wind of this.
Oh.
And it was a sellout by the ring. This is when I was at Ring of Honor. And basically the entire company surrounded the ring. And I told them, okay, you got 2 minutes from contact to take me down. And 2 seconds in the contact, I already had his feet in the air, his face on the mat, and I was mopping the floor with his face. I'm being very literal when I give this description. It was literally bam on his face, around for a bit. And then for maybe the next minute and a half, I just held him in place because I wanted him to know what it felt like to be helpless.
Man.
Never had another problem with him. And it was more of I've never had to go that far, but it was one of those, again, where the nice guy thing was kind of biting me in the ass a bit. So I didn't have that issue ever again with him or anyone else, really. So that was the one time someone had to find out that I'm legit.
Man.
So let's stay there. One of the interviews, I enjoyed the Chris Van Fleet interview you did. I really, really enjoyed that interview. But one of the things you said in that interview that stood out to me was you said I was too much of a nice guy when it came to professional wrestling.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what when you say you're too much of a nice guy, like, do you need an element of asshole?
Hey, look, that's what I've been trying to tell Shelton since we got on the air. Okay, right?
To answer your question, yes, you definitely need a huge bit of asshole to be like the megastar.
Yeah.
Brock, I consider him a personal friend. But Brock can be a real asshole when it comes to business because he's serious about his business. And I can say the same thing about every other top guy. To the fans, some good guy or bad guy, most guys try to project themselves as being, somewhat nice. Yeah. Most guys, not Brock, but most guys. But when it comes to business and what happens before you see anything on television, there's definitely an element that you have to be an asshole. You have to being considered easy to deal with is not always a good thing. But that's a lesson that I had to learn throughout my career. And in a lot of cases, it also has to do with positioning within the company.
Yeah.
Some guys have to work up in that space. Some guys start off, and I've just always maintained the attitude. I'm going to let my work speak for itself. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to cut throats or anything like that, because I also have my own personal integrity that I have to try to maintain. So while I was definitely too much of I can see how a lot of times I was too much of a nice guy, sometimes because I didn't realize that I had a little more authority than I did. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely something that if I could change, I would tweak that a little bit. I may have been not quite as nice. Respectful, I'm always respectful. Yeah. I'm a big on respect guy. But sometimes being nice and easy going can bite you in the ass when you're trying to ascend to the greatest of heights in the top of our industry.
So when you say being a nice guy, like, does that mean more just as far as turning down certain things they may be offering you that you may not agree with?
Right.
Or is that more what you're talking about?
Well, turning down things, saying no to certain things. being less giving in other areas. It's, as far as like what I allow guys to do in the ring, sometimes you can be too generous. When they ask you to do certain performance, certain things that whether you like it or not, not really saying no. I was always trying to prove myself as, hey, whatever this company needs me to do, I'm going to do it. And again, when I very first came in, remember, I'm a poor kid from South Carolina. I grew up on food stamps and government cheese. These people are paying me, a boatload of money to go out here and roughhouse with my friends. So I'm not going to ruin that for me or my family because, I didn't come in with the attitude of, I can go somewhere else and make this happen. Like, no, this has to work because this is the biggest opportunity for me that I could foresee. Plus, it's actually what I want to do with my life. So I think I was so enthralled with trying to make it and make sure I don't ruin things that I became too nice and I allowed things to happen or allowed things to go on or allowed myself to be part of certain angles and things like that I should have had more of a backbone and gone, I shouldn't say more of a backbone. I should have been aware enough to go, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to do that.
Is there looking back on it, is there a particular angle that you look back and say, that's the one I really should have? And I've heard you talk about the Yoshitatsu.
That's the one.
Is that the one?
That's the one. That's the one thing. And mind you, I've done a lot of zany, silly stuff, but that is the one thing that without a shadow of a doubt, if I can go back and say, fuck no, I'm not doing that shit, that's the one thing I would change.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a nice guy. I'm aware, but I don't put up with racism. I don't put up with disrespect of any kind towards anyone, much less having to look back and see myself being a jackass, because that is 1,000% doesn't represent me. That was what I was asked to do. And again, when you're young, because we're talking 15, 16 years ago, you don't realize, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's just a TV show. This isn't me. So, but at the same time, when I look back at it, it's the one thing I'm just like, man, I should have really said no to that shit.
Yeah. Do you look at it? So when you're an actor, like if somebody's an actor, like we've had our share of actors on this show, that role you may be portraying may be nothing like your actual personality. Absolutely. So is it the same? Do you look at it the same as wrestling as, okay, they're giving me this thing to do and I may not necessarily agree with it, or it may not be who I am as a real human being, but and I think we're all old enough to know what professional wrestling is and all of that stuff. So do you want that character or that gimmick or whatever it may be, that storyline they're giving you? Like I said, it may not be who you are in real life, but it's still a character that you have to play. So is it just being cautious of these characters that they're giving you because you don't want it to kind of go into that gray area of who you are as an actual person? Yes.
It's definitely, it's more because it's pro wrestling. We blur the lines with everything in professional wrestling. So sometimes guys are hurting and people don't believe they're hurt. And like, because everyone thinks it's a gimmick, it's fake. Or, like I said, I feel like with pro wrestling, people kind of pick and choose, okay, this is real, but this is not. This is real, but this is, you know what I mean? And from an acting standpoint, I would have no apologies as an actor. But the character I'm playing carries my name. The character I name carries my legacy. So if someone who's not as enlightened as far as what wrestling really is sees this, maybe they blur the lines, like, because I even watch stuff, we'll watch movies and go, oh, he's playing that role a little too good. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I never wanted that kind of I never wanted to represent myself in that way, I guess. If they wanted me to get heat, there was a lot of other ways to do it. Him just being a rookie and things like that. But to go after the racial thing, it was very low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I'm just not I'm just not a fan of that and haven't been a part of that. And again, I get it. We live in the world of fantasy make-believe, but there are people who are really affected by what we do and what we say. Mm-hmm. And as I said before, I don't curse. I'm very conscious of what comes out of my mouth.
Absolutely. So South Carolina, that's where you grew up, South Carolina.
Right.
I did my basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina during the summer, and it was hot as fuck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. So I live in Houston now, and people always tell me, oh, man, is it hot in Houston? Like, let me explain something to you. There is nowhere to me hotter than South Carolina.
Absolutely. I got to agree with you on that.
Man, I lived there up until I was 18 years old. 2 weeks after high school, I packed up, moved to California, went to school there, went to Minnesota. But I remember while in California, I hadn't gone home for 8 months when I finally went home. I think it might have been Christmas break. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't Christmas break. I went home Christmas break, but then I ended up going home again in the summer. Mm-hmm. I hadn't been home in over a year during the summer. And I just remember getting there and going, what is up in me? Yeah. And everyone's like, you're sweating. It's the humidity. And
yep.
I mean, having grown up in it my whole life, I had no idea what humidity was until I went away, came back and was like, why won't I stop sweating? All I did was walk on my mom's step. I haven't taken 2 steps. I'm already in a full sweat. Bro, the heat. And I'm dark skinned already, but now I'm getting farmer's tans and things like that.
You said that you are very big on respect.
Extremely.
What is that from your upbringing? Was mom and dad very big on respect also?
My mom was very big on discipline.
Oh, period.
So period. So discipline. So respect is in that.
Yes, it is.
You don't curse around your mom. You don't say certain things around your mom. So definitely, one of my Uncle Pop, who was, he was like my father figure. He was always he always approached me as a man in a very respectful way, even though I was a child. And he always showed me mature respect. And then later, as I was in high school, I met my high school wrestling coach, Ron Simmons, who, Mike Tyson had Custom Model. I had Ron Simmons.
Oh, okay.
He really emphasized being respectful because he was like, all this, you'll catch, you'll get more opportunities when you show respect. And it's simple respect. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Open doors for people. And just generally treating people with respect and expecting it in return and settling for no less. So based on his teaching and his constant hammering that into me, obviously you coach the way you're coached. And I started living that lifestyle. I shouldn't even say it's a lifestyle. I started living my life in that way. Like, just like I said, I'm big on respect. And in any situation, I've had situations where I had to check my own friends for saying things out of pocket to other people.
Yeah.
A college friend was disrespectful to a waitress in a restaurant. And I was just like, I literally jacked him up and was like, because he literally made her cry. And I remember jacking him up going, if you ever do that in front of me again, I'm going to break your jaw. Because again, I'm big on respect towards everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I completely concur with that way of life. My dad was an asshole, but he was very big on respect. I was, from the time I could talk, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, don't walk on them people's yard. It was everything from day one, Shelton. And so if I was in that same situation, a friend of mine disrespect the waitress, he probably would have had to apologize right there on the spot. I'm an old motherfucker, but I don't play that shit. So, like I said, back to the little bit of edge I think I could bring to the show. So, see, if you walk out, I mean, when you're on your way to the ring, everybody in the first row, everybody sitting on the front row, just slap them. Just slap all the way till you get in the ring.
Now you trying to get the man sued.
No, hey, look, they gonna know when Shelton Benjamin show up. If you sitting on the front row, you asking for it. I'm gonna tell them. I'm saying, look, yeah, bring your slapping cap on or something, because Shelton's coming.
We can definitely do that in Japan. I got one of my buddies I work with, Lance Archer. Like when he comes to the ring in Japan, he has a bottle of water. He's spitting in everyone's face the whole time.
Yeah, and they know it.
Oh
my goodness!
So let me ask you about that. So I know you work for New Japan, and I've always heard how different the crowds are in Japan compared to here in the States. Right. Can you give me what's the difference? Do they look at wrestling totally different than we look at it here in the States? Because I noticed there's a lot of times they're very quiet sometimes. Is that just the norm over there?
Okay, so originally they were the Japanese people my understanding of it was, they look at pro wrestling like you or I would look at going to the opera.
Okay.
So when they're very quiet, it's not because they're not interested, it's because they're watching, they're paying attention, they actually get into the moves and nuances and everything else. So when you do a spot, whatever, and then you'll notice and then they'll go back to watching. So they're 100% invested. It's just they look at it like at the time they look at it like an opera. Now as they've gotten more westernized as far as reaction goes, they understand that us as Americans, we want that constant feedback. We want that constant interaction. So over time, they've morphed into more of an American style reactions to it. So they're cheering because they know we like the cheers and things like that. Yeah. But they're definitely into it. But again, they're basically respecting your craft. They're allowing you to work. In their heads, they think we're being quiet so that you can work. Much like if you went to watch professional golf. Mm-hmm. And so again, and this is why I love Japan, it's all about respect. Yeah. Japan is a huge respect company. And yeah, when I go there, they really make you appreciate when you do a good job, they really make you appreciate it. But yeah, they're definitely into it. So don't let that quiet fool you. Well, now, really because of COVID, I know in Japan, they weren't allowed to cheer because they didn't want people spreading germs or whatever. But yeah, they're more westernized now, but in the past, it was definitely out of respect.
So was that hard for you guys? And I asked this question from somebody who's not a professional wrestler, but have interacted with a lot of professional wrestlers. I always hear you guys say that you feed off that crowd. So if the crowd is being quiet, does that make your job harder when you're actually in there working if they're not giving you a lot of feedback?
Yes.
Okay.
When it came to Japan, once I understood what they were doing, it was a little easier because they would cheer when we wanted them to cheer. But during the setup phases of matches for these, big spots and things like that, they're quiet because they're paying attention. They're watching the setup. For American friends, and then it sucks. I can have the same match in two different cities and get two different reactions because I've learned there are different crowds. There are crowds that are the family crowd. They just want to interact and, make it fun for their kids. There's the blood and guts crowd where, you pretty much have to run each other over with a dump truck and kick out at one for them to even, respond. And then you got, like the more WWE crowd where it's like most crowds just like good action and good fun. But it really depends on what part of the country you're in. But if there's no response, oh man, the matches are longer. You get tired faster. The falls hurt more. Geez, we get frustrated. Just like they're rating our performance, we're rating their reaction. And it's nothing for a guy to come back and some nights and go, oh, man, that crowd sucks. what do you got to do? What do you got to do to, get a reaction out of them? Then there are other nights it was like, oh my God, that was so easy. That crowd is awesome. I remember going to the Philippines with WWE, and before the show started, this was a rocking crowd. It was literally before the show started. We went if you went to the curtain and just peeked, this sold out. I think it was Araneta Arena. If you just peeked, the whole crowd went nuts. They don't even know who's peeking, but they go absolutely berserk, as opposed to other crowds who until someone comes out, there's no reaction. So we knew that was an easy day. You went out there, first guy, they introduced one guy, big cheer. Introduced the other guy, big cheer. The bell rings, big cheer. The guy circle, big cheer. We haven't done anything at all. And when you're in front of that kind of crowd, you can do no wrong. But then there are the crowds that, you can, I think Will Ospreay is probably the most explosive, exciting guy I'm seeing right now. And there are some crowds, again, he had to do 15 flips and dive into a ladder and bust his head open before they even get that was cool. I guess that was okay. So yeah, the crowd reaction matters. We definitely feed up the crowd. It's definitely a very, very physical thing. When we say we feed up the crowd, it's a very real thing. Unless you've ever been in that position, it's really hard to explain because, again, when you're in front of a rocking crowd, I don't get tired. I don't feel pain. I am 100% invincible. And it's an amazing psychological rush.
I would think the Japanese fans would really appreciate a Shelton Benjamin because I think they're looking for skill levels. And there's some pro wrestling. Many moons ago, I trained to be a professional wrestler. Right. So there's some wrestlers that have just a few moves, but they, they can talk shit good, or they got the gimmick is really good. But Shelton Benjamin has a wide variety of skills, and that I know that's from your amateur background, but you also added all these high flying. Were you a gymnast before you? Did you? Damn, you flying all over the ring, and you could do it all.
So gymnast, no. I would say I was a ghetto acrobat.
Okay. Yeah, hell yeah.
So I'm because of where I grew up. I grew up in the woods and all these things. I'm always climbing trees, swimming in rivers, jumping in. Every summer, my mom got scared because I was probably going to hurt myself because I would climb anything, the roof, the house, jump off anything, and a lot of the skills that I would use in pro wrestling. I was just a kid. I was just a wild kid. So a lot of those cursing outs that turned into ass whipping from my mom was because I was out just doing silly stuff. And it just benefited me later. When I finally actually started doing pro wrestling, I took to it like a duck to water, and I slowly just figured out I could do all these things. I had no idea.
Did your mother ever apologize to you for all those ass whoopings she gave you? And look how it's paying off now. Oh, she gave you all those ass whoopings.
Okay. Let's. Okay, my mother's a woman first. When was the last time you heard a woman apologize?
Never.
Hell no.
Never.
Matter of fact, me and my siblings laugh about it. We'll go, Ma, you remember when you whipped me? I don't remember doing any of that.
Oh my God, that is my mother. That is my mother to a T. My mother was just like yours. My mother was a disciplinarian. So when me and my sister, we make fun of her now. You remember this? I didn't do all that. Lady, are you are losing your mind.
How is she toward the grandkids? Is it night and day?
Oh, it's night and day.
I knew it.
It's night and day. My mom, you know what the grandkids got? The grandkids got the grandkids got a poodle. All right. Pit bull.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had a pit bull that bit hard and often.
I tell my girls, I got 4 daughters. I said, that lady you know is your grandmother, that is not the lady that raised me.
No.
That lady y'all think is super sweet and, my grandmother, my nana, that's not the same woman that y'all don't know the lady that raised me. Because if you knew the lady that raised me.
You don't want to know the lady.
They have, but you cannot tell them anything. They think she is the sweetest woman walking the face of this earth. And I just like, y'all have no idea.
And my mom's a great actress because she falls right into the role. Like, who are you right now?
All right, so we talked about your amateur career. And you said you took the professional wrestling like a duck out of water. How clearly it sounded like it was a seamless transition, but how much of your amateur background made that transition so much more comfortable for you? Because we look at people like Kurt Angle, like a Brock Lesnar, like a Shelton Benjamin, who have these amateur backgrounds that come into professional wrestling. Like you said, you guys take to it like a duck out of water. Is that because of the amateur wrestling? And how similar are they? How similar is amateur wrestling to professional wrestling?
Amateur wrestling and professional wrestling, two separate monsters.
Yeah. And I ask that because I know that, but I want people to understand, like, just because you have an amateur wrestling background does not mean you're going to totally take to professional wrestling.
It's like comparing gridiron football to soccer. Mm-hmm. Some people want to call them both football. They are completely two different games. But what I did take from amateur wrestling is the work ethic. Because as an amateur wrestler, I feel like we're the hardest working athletes on the planet. And the work ethic came in, but I think for me, particularly, the fact that I was always a pro wrestling fan as a kid is what helped me a lot, because I've been doing the moves longer than I knew how to do them right. Like, me and my cousins in my playground, like, we had the cardboard belts and had the matches on a rug in the grass at the house. And, we would try out all these different pro wrestling moves. Everyone that tried to figure 4, yeah.
It works. It definitely works.
So I was just a fan. So I had a lot of time. I learned a lot of timing and a lot of things just from observation from, 8 years old to when I finally actually had a job. So again, I took to a duck to water because I'd been subconsciously programming all of this stuff in my head. And Jim Cornette, who was the guy in charge when I went to OVW, like, he asked me, "Have you trained before?" And I was like, when I finally got to OVW, like, "Have you trained before?" I'm like, "No, I did one tryout with WWE and they sent me here." So I've only been in the ring, a very short time, and everything I'm learning and doing, you're seeing for the first time. And I'm learning, again, the rambunctious kid who was also a pro wrestling fan, who had a great work ethic through pro wrestling, is what I attest to my success and abilities in the ring.
So tell me a little more about Jim Cornette. He is a very
polarizing
figure in the professional wrestling world. I happen to be a big fan of Jim Cornette. I love Jim Cornette. But a lot of people have a lot of different things to say about Mr. Cornette. So I'm going to ask you, for somebody who actually worked with Jim Cornette, what is your impression of Jim Cornette? And I say that because I've heard him talk about you, and he's been very complimentary of Shelton Benjamin and how amazing you are in the ring and how you took to this, like you said, like a duck out of water. But how do you see Jim Cornette?
I think Jim Cornette is one of the best minds in pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. Hands down. No doubt about it. I do consider him a friend, but he's not a friend that's going to protect me. Like, he's very complimentary of me, but he's very honest. Yeah. And like, I've heard him critique me. Like, he actually said, I'm not a natural promo guy. Yeah. He said it nicely. Yeah. But he doesn't like cover stuff up. I consider him a friend. I trust his opinion. There are times where I'm like, you might be. Sometimes I feel like he can be a little outdated with his thinking. Outdated, but very rarely do I think he's wrong in his thinking. He's very old school, and I believe you have to evolve with the business, whether you like it or not. every business changes, evolves, morphs into something else. And I think as a wrestling purist, he's trying to maintain that pure pro wrestling vibe, and I commend him for that. And it's definitely needed. That being said, there are elements where you got to roll with, you got to change with the times. As far as people not liking him or people who do, I love him personally. I love him.
Yeah.
And I can see how a lot of people feel like getting rubbed the wrong way about him. But at the same time, I always said, no matter if you like what he says or you don't like what he says, I can tell you right now, he ain't lying.
Yeah. I've always taken that from Jim. He seems like he wants to protect that part of wrestling that he came up in. And I totally understand that. But it also makes me think of something you said a little while ago, as far as just some of the matches now, like you said, you literally got to run somebody over with a truck now. And when I listen to Jim talk, and he's been very, very critical of AEW, and I know you work for AEW now, but he's been very critical of the match types, and where you got guys hitting finisher after finisher after finisher, and you don't pin them. And his thing is like, there was a time in professional wrestling where the finishing moves were quite simple. I remember Mr. Fuji had a little splash he'd run to the rope, splash on you. That was his finishing move. So I understand that part of it, but from somebody, and again, I don't feel like somebody who's not a professional wrestler, I have a hard time critiquing what you guys do because I'm not in it.
Right.
But for somebody who is in it, when you look at the way some of these matches are going, like you said, when you literally got to run somebody over with a truck to pin them, do you think that is detrimental to? And I understand we have to suspend our disbelief and all that stuff while we're watching, but do you think that part of what professional wrestling is evolving into, do you think that is a detriment right now with those kind of match types? And are we training the viewers to think, okay, we got to hit this guy with 3, 4, 5 finishers just to pin him?
Right. Well, I think there's a time and a place for those type of matches.
Agreed.
There's definitely a place for them. They're definitely needed. I think the frequency in which they're happening is more of an issue than the fact that they're happening at all. Because again, everything evolves. You can look at every other industry. You can look at the car industry. A car used to be an engine, 4 wheels, and a steering wheel. Now we got cars that drive themselves. You look at the movie industry. It used to be one camera, 2 people, and no sound, black and white. Now we got CGI movies. So everything evolves. And again, the purists are going to like, you're going to want to hang on to what you came up in. Same thing with music. So when it comes to those type of matches, they are definitely a place for them. I just think sometimes the frequency in the same show that they happen, that's where there's a problem. So you need to there's got to be a balance. And the other side is the more you up the ante, the greater the risk become. And the one word that always sticks in my head from the great Ron Simmons is the most important thing in wrestling is longevity. Yeah. You want to do this for a long time at the highest level so you get the most money. I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I've never missed a mortgage payment. My kids have never gone hungry or wanted, because I'm very specific on when I do those kind of matches. I don't do them a lot these days, but when the time calls for it, I understand. Yeah, I got to do that. I think it's more of a it's just too frequent on the same show. Every show shouldn't have 5, 6 matches like that. I'm not saying AEW. I mean in general. In general, yeah. You build a show. You build a match, and you build a show the same way you build a match. You start small and you build and you build and you build and you build. And so if the opening match always someone's getting shot out of a cannon in the opening match, what are the guys in the main event going to do? You know what I mean? So it's more of an issue of a balancing act, in my opinion.
Yeah. You say you grew up a wrestling fan.
Yes.
So I want to know Who were some of Shelton Benjamin's wrestling idols?
First and foremost, my very first wrestling idol was Magnum TA.
Oh,
Magnum TA.
okay.
Yeah, the belly to belly with his finish. The belly to belly won me more street fights than most people will ever imagine. The belly to belly never failed me. And, so obviously, Magnum TA, Nikita Koloff, the Rock and Roll Express. The Rock and Roll Express was actually the first team that I would tune into specifically to see them. You know, we had, Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen, all these guys who, were quote unquote the top guys. But I was there to see the Rock and Roll Express. When I saw the Rock and Roll Express, Magnum TA, I was happy.
Man.
Later came in Sting. I'm to this day a huge Sting fan. Obviously, when Ron Simmons and Doom came in and Ron became the first Black World Heavyweight Champion, oh my God. Mind blown. So the Samoan SWAT team, the Steiner brothers, believe it or not, I was more of a WCW / Crockett Promotions fan, NWA, than I was WWF. WWF at the time, I remember it was, Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior. Undertaker, instant favorite. Yeah. Still love that guy to this day. I think he's one of the few people who, when I got into the industry, I had immense respect for. But then after working alongside him, and actually I like to call him my friend these days, he's one of the few people, my respect level only grew with him over the years. Yeah. And believe it or not, I used to watch Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually a big Mountain Fiji fan.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I go way back with the wrestling.
Okay, you said the first. I know Ron Simmons was a heavyweight champion, and you say he was first.
He was the first Black World Heavyweight Champion.
Okay, I'm old as fuck now. I got a few years on you, and I remember a cat named Bobo Brazil.
Bobo Brazil, yeah.
And I believe that Bobo won a heavyweight title, a world heavyweight title back in the day. Now I got to check my facts, but I believe he had a title.
I know he was mind back then. There were a lot of territories.
Yeah. So. And
I know he was a champion in one of these territories. But when I think world champion, I think the WWF champion, or at the time the WCW NWA champion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
No, he wouldn't have been one of those. It would have been, some smaller organization. Let's see, Bo Brazil. Wrestler won the NWA, United States Heavyweight Champion.
United Heavyweight.
Okay, that's what it was. That's what it was. Good job there, Solomon. I remember Bobo with a belt. That's I got it confused. United States Champion, and you were Intercontinental Champion, right?
I was Intercontinental Champion 3 times, and U.S. Champion once. Tag Team Champions with WWE 3 times.
Man.
I got a little collection over here.
Let's check it. Got some hardware over
All right, so can we stay on Ron Simmons for a minute? Because when we talk about wrestling, a lot of people when I was growing up, they were, either Hulk Hogan guys, Ultimate Warrior guys, Ric Flair guys, Dusty Rhodes guys. I have always and will always be a Ron Simmons guy. That guy, to me, is the be all end all for me. And I'm still to this day, we fighting to get Ron on this show. If it's anybody I want on this show, it's Ron Simmons. So we are going through all avenues to get Ron on this show. But it's for somebody who knows Ron. What makes Ron Simmons? Because I asked that question because, again, when people talk about toughest guys in wrestling, Ron Simmons' name is always brought up in that. But I don't, and again, I get it. I'm not in the industry, but I've never heard stories about Ron having, except for Ahmed Johnson. But I didn't hear a whole lot of stories of Ron having to jack people up. It was just known. Ron is just one of those guys.
Don't mess.
You do not mess with Ron Simmons. What is it about? Who was it? No, it was John Bradshaw. JBL said that when he got inducted to the Hall of Fame, he said Ron Simmons is the only man that could walk in the locker room with a blue helmet on and a gladiator outfit, and nobody's going to say shit to him. Not a damn word. So, Shelton Benjamin, what makes Ron Simmons this mythological figure that people talk about so much?
Okay, so what's the best way to put this? If you look up alpha male in the dictionary, not only is there a picture of Ron Simmons next to that, there is also a statue. Because Ron is the ultimate alpha male. One time, there was a story going around about how Ron, no one messed with Ron, but people mess around with Butch, his partner.
Yeah.
Butch,
and I can't remember who said it, but Butch, people would mess with Butch, play pranks on him and everything. And I can't remember who asked the question to Ron, but they literally said to Ron, why is it everyone messes with Butch, but no one messes with you? And in classic Ron Simmons fashion, he said, because I'm unfuckable.
Unfuckwittable. That was Arn Anderson. Because I remember Arn Anderson telling that story because he was talking. It was about the Steiners, actually. He was talking about. He said the Steiners will pull all kind of. They would run you off the road if they saw you driving down the freeway. They run you off the road. All kind of crazy stuff. And he said, I was sitting in the locker room with Ron. He said because the Steiners would tie you up, tie you to a pole or something, and just leave you there. He was like, they were those kind of guys. He was like, so he said, I'm sitting in the locker room with Ron Simmons. I said, Ron, why don't nobody ever mess with you? And he said, Ron leaned over and said, because I'm unfuckwittable. I am unfuckwittable. And that stuck with me. And I'm thinking to myself, for somebody like Arn Anderson, who we consider, Arn wasn't nothing to sneeze at. Arn was a bad man back in the day. So for people like the Steiner brothers, Arn Anderson, all of these people who are considered, at the upper echelon in professional wrestling, for them to say Ron Simmons was that guy, I'm believing them. Ron is not was. Ron is still.
Oh man, I really like hearing that.
I'm just sitting here and just as a fan of both CT and Ron, it would blow my mind to see you two having a conversation. I could sit and watch that I could sit and watch that interview for 24 hours straight. I'm
telling you, I am fighting. We've had Stevie Ray on this show, Stevie Ray, Diamond Dallas Page. Everybody has been trying, because Ron doesn't have social media or anything like that. Goldberg, everybody. We are trying to get Ron on this show. So everybody's trying to make it happen, because what you just said is having CT and Ron Simmons together.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That is the equivalent. That is a dream match.
Yeah.
That's a dream match.
We gotta make that happen. I gotta get that.
Yeah.
I gotta make that happen. But I've met Ron a couple of times over the years, and matter of fact, I met him about 6 years ago. They did something in Las Vegas, and they had this thing where you could purchase a VIP package, and you could have lunch or have breakfast with a particular star. So I said, I got to meet Ron Simmons. So I buy the little VIP package, and it's just me and him sitting at this table. We eating fruit and danishes and just talking to this man. He's one of those people where when he opens his mouth, you listen.
You listen.
You shut up.
Yeah.
And
when
you
Ron
listen.
Simmons talk,
yeah. Do not interrupt Ron Simmons. I don't know if it's just it's his presence, his voice, everything about that man is just like, when this man is talking, you shut the hell up and you listen.
Honestly, when Ron's talking, again, even if you never met him, his voice, the way he talks, it commands the room, it commands respect, and it's like, geez, everyone's at attention. When Ron's talking, everyone's at attention. Because, like I said, he's the man. Like I always say, if I had a kid, I want my kid to grow up to be Ron Simmons.
Oh, man.
I want my son to grow up to be Ron Simmons, because that's the kind of men we need walking around today.
Man.
So for somebody who's been around Ron and interacted with him, like, what is that thing he possesses that makes you and so many other people look at him like that? Like, what is it? Just
it's really hard to put a finger on it. I mean, when you hear about his feats of strength and things like that, like casually walking into the gym, putting 4 or 5 on the rack, pumping it 5 times, and then walking out, while in cowboy jeans and cowboy boots, nothing to warm up, just go pump him and he's out, and that's his workout. Like I said, as a nose guard, the guy was a Heisman Trophy candidate
as a nose guard, and that never happens. That never happens.
Like I didn't think it was even possible for anyone in that position to be nominated for that. But here's Ron. It's a casual thing to Ron, and again, this is going to be a weird analogy. I do a lot of analogies, but have you ever seen a pack of wolves? Mm-hmm. You know who the alpha is because no matter what's going on, when the alpha walks up, all the other wolves just kind of drop their head and they wait to see what he wants to do and what he's going to do. I feel like Ron brings that same kind of energy,
right
everywhere he goes. It's like you just know this is an alpha male, and you know off the bat, no matter what, I got to respect this guy.
Yeah.
Number 2, if I don't, it's not going to end well for me. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the kind of energy that he puts off. But at the same time, he is a great guy. Like, you want to be around him. You want to hear his stories. Like, he's just one of those, he has a very magnetic personality, but it's a magnetic personality that you also respect.
Yep. I took that away
at every level.
Yeah. So, when I got to sit with him that day, we sat there for about an hour and just talked. And the way he commanded the room and everything around him just blew me away. And I sat there and I said, watching him growing up as a kid, and I think when we had Stevie Ray on, we talked about that. It was just like, Ron was that guy. I knew a lot of guys in my neighborhood like Ron Simmons. I knew a lot of guys. I knew the Ron Simmonses. I knew the Butch Reeds. Those were the guys that I remember seeing, like, just some badass dudes that would beat your ass if they have to, but would also some of the nicest guys too. You just knew you didn't want to take them there. It was going to be a problem if you took them there.
Hey, I don't know what was in the water around the time Ron and CT were born, but we need to put some more in it these days.
They are definitely a different breed of man. That there ain't a lot of them walking around no more.
Well, you know what? Y'all got me in the wrong category. I am nowhere near. No, I don't. Man, Ron Simmons and CT Fletcher. No, we have a good interview, but he's way out of my league.
His man's playing modest now, Mr. Benjamin.
Yeah, I know it.
I've seen this man stand in rooms and talk, and everybody shut the hell up and listen because he demands that type of respect. When he just getting a little older now, he kind of calming down a little bit, but he's still CT Fletcher. Don't get it twisted now.
That's what I like about what you just said about Ron. You said Ron is still a man. How old is Ron now?
That's a good.
Is he old as me? I'm 65. Is he old as me?
He's somewhere in that same area. Like, I don't know exactly, but he's somewhere in there.
He's 66.
66. Okay, yeah.
So he's a year older than you.
Okay. We have a good conversation.
Oh yeah.
So you are now currently working for AEW, and speaking of that, now that you're there. A good friend of the show who we've had on, Mr. Shane Taylor, wanted me to ask you a question. And so I posted on social media that we were interviewing you, and Shane had a comment. He wanted to know, when is Mr. Shelton Benjamin and the Hurt Syndicate want that smoke with Shane Taylor Promotions? Those are his words, not mine.
Okay. So okay, now the standard of excellence is going to have to take a front seat here.
Okay, hey, I'm just telling you what the man told me to ask you. He said, when does the Hurt Syndicate want to smoke? Shane Taylor Promotion.
If he wants to smoke, that careful what you wish for. we don't blow smoke. We burn people up. We are the fire. We're not the smoke.
Oh, Pa, I think that's a clip right
pretty good right there.
That's a clip right there.
You did all right without me on that one. You did all right there.
Well, Mr. Taylor, I think that answers your question. I told him, I said, Shane, don't put that out there if you don't want me to ask you now, because I'm gonna ask you.
I'll put it this way, and this is the Shane Taylor Promotions or any other promotions, factions, groups, individuals. If you want to bring the smoke, bring it. We are equal opportunity ass kickers, and we have no problem showing you the difference between the smoke and the flame.
Oh, damn. You kind of sound like C.T. Fletcher when you say equal opportunity ass whooper. I like that.
So, okay. Now that I got that out of the way, so Shane, you heard his response. So the ball is in your court, sir. So I'm going to see how you going to respond to that one. But how has your time been at AEW so far? I know you've been there a few months now. So what are your thoughts on it? How you liking it over there so far?
I can honestly say I'm enjoying myself so much there. It's a very different world.
Yeah.
We have a very different approach and everything else. But from me personally, I'm enjoying every moment of it. The guys I've worked with, a lot of first time matchups. Mm-hmm. And I'm just enjoying everything about it. The process, it definitely has. There are pros and cons of everything. Yeah. It's definitely the devil I don't know as far as that goes. But Tony Khan has been so helpful, super supportive, super enthusiastic, and he's allowed the Hurt Syndicate to continue their story, and do a lot of things that we weren't able to do when we were the Hurt business. Mm-hmm. So, but for myself in particularly, it's been a bit of a career resurgence. It's, I've been able to really show people who, I would say partly because of my age, were writing me off. And I was like, whoa, I don't think you realize there is a whole lot left in the tank here that I'm trying to, that's going to get out. And I'm finally getting a chance to have the kind of matches I want to match. The kind of matches I want to have. And, it's been very fun. As with every business, there are little growing pains here and there. But for the most part, my AEW experience so far has been fantastic.
I will say this, watching you on AEW TV, you just said a resurgence. I will say this. Seeing the way you have been portrayed on AEW TV is the way I wanted you portrayed when you were in WWE. Because as a black man, I sit here and we had this conversation with Stevie Ray, like, to see you brothers when you guys were the Hurt Business, like, that made my heart smile. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I love seeing that because we got to see. And I hate talking about this because I hate making it about race, but just, again, I can only speak as a black man. Watching you brothers come together, you were clean, you had your suits on, you looked good, but we knew you could still, they were going to beat your ass. It is what it is. But the way you guys were portrayed, I love seeing that aspect of it. And I love seeing black people, our black professional wrestlers, again, and I get, we're not a monolith. We are totally different. Mm-hmm. But to be able to see different sides of the African-American wrestler, I thought was so important. So to see you brothers like that was very, very, like I said, made me very happy, but also made me very depressed on the back end because, and I've heard you talk about this, MVP has talked about it, just the way that it kind of ended definitely disappointed me. So to see you brothers back together now as the Hurt Syndicate, and that is a beautiful thing to me. So I'm glad you guys were able to work that part of it, come back together, because it was so much of your guys' story that I think definitely was not told. Mm-hmm. And I can't, because technically you guys were together as a Hurt Business for 8 or 9 months. Was it even full calendar year?
8 months.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It wasn't even full calendar year. So when I think about that, I'm thinking, okay, You got the Hurt Business versus the Bloodline. Just all these different things I thought could have happened with that story, and it just didn't.
We all thought.
Absolutely.
We all thought.
So can I ask you, in your mind, why did it end so abruptly? Or were you ever even given a reason why it ended so abruptly?
The reason that I have is that because Vince McMahon said we've gone as far as we can with the Hurt Business. And I'm not saying that because that's what I think. I'm saying that because when I asked him, why are you breaking us up? That was the answer he gave me. No one in the company thought that was a good idea to break us up. And when I asked Vince, that was his answer to me. So why he decided that, you will have to speak with him about that. But the reason is because he decided he was done with the Hurt Business. And he just wanted to, at the time, I guess, focus mainly on Bobby. And that's it. Period. End of story. Don't know why. It never made sense. It's never going to make sense. But that was Vince. It's not, and I'm not even going to say WWE, because everyone tried to get him to change his mind on that. He made his mind up.
And Vince strikes me as the type of guy where once he makes his mind up on something, nobody's changing his mind, right?
I feel like it was more, once he makes his mind up on something, when too many people try to change his mind, that's when he really digs in.
Okay.
So when everyone's saying, no, this is wrong, it's like, fuck that, I'm not wrong. So I feel like he dug into his decision after that. But yeah, we definitely wanted to give that other dynamic. Like, we weren't, for like the way Black people have been portrayed in WWE, positively and negatively, we wanted to give them a very professional, business-like take, because, again, not to turn it into a racial thing, but all Black people aren't entertainers.
Yeah.
All Black people aren't flashy. Mm-hmm. Some are businessmen. We're businessmen. We're lawyers. We're thinkers. We're not everybody can be, quote unquote, entertaining in the way that Vince wanted us to be. We don't dance, we don't sing, and we don't run. That was the big thing. So when we had Stevie Ray on, he talked about that. Like, he was critical of how they were portrayed. So we're talking about like the New Day. He was very complimentary of them as people, but he was just like the way they were being portrayed on TV as far as the dancing and all of that stuff. And my thing to him was like, I totally get what he was saying. But like I said, we as Black people are not a monolith. So, I mean, I know guys like Woods and Kofi. Like, I know guys like that. Mm-hmm. I also know guys like Shelton Benjamin. I know guys like Bobby Lashley. I know guys like R-Truth. So I think having that variety of seeing us in different aspects was super important. So yeah, we got the Hurt Business. We got these brothers in suits and they look good and they'll kick your ass. And we got the New Day over here that like to party and have a good time, but they're also one of the most decorated tag teams of all time. Right.
We got R-Truth who can run around and be goofy and crack jokes on people. But, then we got, like I said, we got all these different variety of people. I think having that variety is super important. And not just being seen as goofy or dancing and running around and all that stuff. So,
again, as you say, like guys like the New Day, phenomenal human beings and everything. Yeah. And I think it's more the reason the Hurt Business, now Syndicate, resonated so much is because with pro wrestling, we had been overwhelmingly presented in the other light. I'm not saying it's a bad light or anything, just more from the entertainment side. And so when we came along, you weren't used to seeing Black people presented this way, or Black talent presented in this way, or you're just so used to seeing so much of the other aspects that when you finally see this, like it actually helped work to our favor. It made us stand out. So I think that had and again, Black fans, I feel like, we don't want to see another, we have New Day, we have an R-Truth, we had a Crime Time, we had all these hip hop / flashy sports sports related characters. But now we got businessmen. We don't ever see businessmen.
Yeah.
Not, at least not in the ring. I've seen a couple come in suits as, playing the role of lawyer, but the actual talent coming in suits, looking good, acting good. We look good in suits, we look good out of suits, and we kick ass in and out of suits. So, and to back up a bit, when I first got into pro wrestling, my only goal was to be a tag team champion. Because at the time, my perception was Ron was the only black world champion I saw. I think a few guys, I think Ahmed and D'Lo have won the IC title, but it was uncommon for me to see black men with singles titles. So going in, I'm thinking that's the ceiling for me. If I can get a tag team championship, I've lived out my dream. And I did that within 3 months of my debut. So it's like, 10, 15, okay, what am I going to do now? It's like all this other stuff. So for me, when I think back, I only thought about the tag team championships. So hopefully someone younger will look and go, oh, regardless of my color, I can be tag champ, US champ, IC champ, world champ, and I think that's what made the Hurt business stand out, because we had every level: tag champs, singles champs, world champ. And as the saying goes, representation counts.
Yeah.
Representation matters.
It really does.
Have you ever said on the air, I'm an equal opportunity ass whooper? I'm telling you, Shelton, that should be your tagline. I'm an equal opportunity ass whooper, and just go around the ring, slap with kids, dog, whatever's in the front row, they getting slapped. And if you do that, I'm telling you, hey, skyrocket.
Grandma, you stand up here,
hey,
you get one.
You can get it too, Grandma. Get in the front row.
All right, so we are running low on time. I'm already over, but it's a couple more questions. So one, I will be very honest with you. When the character, when you had Thea Vidal as your mother, I was not a big fan of that character, but I was always a big fan of Thea. How, and I heard you say on Chris Van Fleet's show how, and that basically she could not have been replaced had they decided to take her out. So how important and how well did she take to that role as playing your mother? Because when I first saw her, when she debuted, I'm thinking, how the hell did they get Thea Vidal to play Shelton's mother? I was like, wait, hold on a second. But how important was she, and how was she to work with, actually?
So to work with Thea was a lot of fun, actually, because what you saw on the camera never stopped. Thea was, she's a comedian, so she was always doing her act, around us, whether we realized it or not. She was full of energy. She was a lot of fun to work with, and at the time, I really needed something. It didn't matter what, I needed something, and I was getting more TV time than ever. We were filming more skits than ever. Like the skit we did with Vince McMahon when I walked in on him with his pants off. Yeah. I was having the time of my life. Unfortunately, between her, there were some issues, and then I guess she had some health issues, and they just decided, to kill the whole thing. And so it all ended prematurely. And so I've explained this before, that I feel like because we never had a story arc. Okay. You saw her come in, you saw me getting bullied by my mom, which isn't too far from the truth. But then she was gone. Yeah. So there was no story arc between us. And part of the story arc would have been eventually me getting my manhood back. Yeah. And saying, okay, mama, I'll take it from here. I'm a man. I don't need you to. We never finished the story. So I feel like it left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouth, was because you only got the first couple of pages of chapter 1. You didn't get through the whole story. So it's understandable why some people wouldn't like it. But that being said, I was having the time of my life. working with her. It was so much fun.
Yeah, because I've always thought Thea was hilarious. So then when I saw her debut as your mother, it just like, wait, hold on a second. It definitely threw me off, but I've always enjoyed Thea. And, I heard her, talk about some of the issues she was having back then. But maybe if I had saw it play out a little more, I would have enjoyed it more. But it was just like, what are they doing with Shelton? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I've always looked at you as like, there's no reason this brother couldn't be world heavyweight champion. That's just always been how I looked at you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So to see you getting bullied by your mother just as a fan, I'm like, oh, come on. Come on. There's so much more they could be doing with this man.
Yeah, there is, but at the same time, it's television.
Yeah.
That's where, we kind of go to the Yoshi-Tashi, kind of the Yoshi-Tashi, my issue with that. It's still a character. And again, some people can't separate reality from fiction. So just like some people stop seeing me in a certain light because of that, because of the mama angle, they might have started seeing me in a negative light because of the Yoshi angle. Yeah. So it's a balancing act. But at the same, again, I can't repeat enough. I was having the time of my life, and where it was going, I had high hopes for it because, again, we're telling stories. Yeah. And if you only get a part of the story, a small part of the story, you're never going to appreciate where the story was going to go because you never saw it. It ended way too prematurely. And it's funny because a lot of people go, man, how long were you guys with her? Mama was with me from the first time to the last time you saw me with her, 8 weeks.
Oh, man.
Jeez. Most people think it was months, almost a year, but it was 8 weeks.
Wow. It did. Looking back on it, it definitely seemed like it went by like that. Yeah, God, 8 weeks? That's crazy when you went back and think about it. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so another one of the things that upset me from your career, one of my favorite matches, and you've talked about this ad nauseum, but I'm going to bring it up anyway, the match with you and Shawn Michaels on Monday Night Raw. Mm-hmm. That is still, to this day, one of my favorite matches of all time. And I don't know, it's just, it's something about it. Of course, the ending, the springboard into the super kick, all of that stuff was great. But that match, I felt like coming out of that match, I'm like, okay, now this is going to shoot Shelton into the stratosphere. And it didn't seem like it did. And I was always blown away. And again, I'm talking as a fan. Again, I never will try to talk like I know the ins and outs of professional wrestling because I'm not any. But just as a fan who has been watching wrestling for 40-something years, I'm like, okay, coming out of it, now they're going to get my guy straight. And nothing ever came out of that. So, and I heard you talk about how it was kind of like, it was some good and bad in that. But from your standpoint, it sounds like you were expecting the same thing to come out of that match, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just had one of the best matches of my life with one of the greatest of all time. And yeah, it sucked when after all of that and after all the hype and everything else that nothing came of it. So after that, I was kind of like everyone else, like, I don't get it. What's going on? And I've had other moments in my career like that. I had a month-long feud with The Undertaker that I thought after that, things would happen. And for whatever reason, like I said, I guess they call it the wrestler's curse or the worker's curse. I was so good at what I did that they only used me to help make other guys look good.
Wow. You know who else? I've heard Dolph Ziggler being put in that same category. You're so good at what you do. You're so good at making other guys look better that it is kind of the thing that holds you back because you're so good at what you do, which sounds crazy to me on the outside looking in. Wait, you're telling me this guy is that good? He can make all these other people look good, but he's so good that we got to keep him right where he is. That didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
It seems like it. It really does. But again, that was very disappointing, but also that's one of the areas where I look at it and I go, I should have been a little less nice.
Yeah.
Yep. A little more demanding, a little more beat my chest a little and go, look, this is what I can do if you let me do it.
Yeah.
So help me out here. It's disappointing to say that.
Yeah.
But that being said, yeah, the match itself was phenomenal, and it was so easy because Shawn, like I said, Shawn is his in-ring psychology was I was just following him.
Yeah. And
he made it so easy. And like I said, I can't thank him enough. I can't thank him enough for the match. I just wish that they would have really capitalized off of it from that moment, because my career would have been viewed in a completely different light, I think.
Yep. So, Pops, anything else before we get ready to shut this down?
Yeah, I'm going to make it quick. Mr. Benjamin, I know you are big on respect. So am I. And I want you to know, from me to you, that you have my utmost respect. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I appreciate that so much, sir. And you have mine.
All right, so I wanted to touch on that. You said you were a big CT fan. When did you first get introduced to Mr. Fletcher? What about Mr. Fletcher made him stand out to you?
Okay, so the first time I heard I was brought to your attention, you were brought to my attention. I was actually helping some guys put on a wrestling show in Arizona, in Phoenix, and they wanted to book you for it. And I was like, I don't know who CT Fletcher is. And he started showing me a clip, and that's when I saw the clip of you and the Hulk.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, just listening to you talk, and I was like, hell yeah, this dude he's made for pro wrestling. Like, you're his talk. I don't care if he can wrestle or not. Just let him go talk shit. So that's when I first started like paying attention and following and seeing all of these Herculean feats that was just happening regularly around you put people through, and I was just like amazed. And at one point, the woman I was seeing, like, she was a fan too, and like we both wanted to come to your gym just to meet you.
Oh wow!
So that's when I started really following and paying attention. But I remember mostly when I was recovering from my shoulder injury before I went back to WWE. I got out of shape. I had one arm was like tiny. I was like a baseball player with the tiny arm and the big arm. So I would put on his motivational records and stuff like that while I was working out, because I was like, just listen to everything he was saying was resonating with me in a way that had never been pushed to me. You know, you gotta be obsessed. I'm the man. I'm right here. You looking for the one? I am the one. I'm right here, and I'm just listening to this, and I was like, damn, he curses a lot, but god damn, he's getting like he's motivated. Like, I was like, how can you not be motivated after listening to this? And I remember when the doctor said, okay, well, we'll know you're clear to release you once you get your bench press up to about, I think it was they said 275 to 300. And that's when I did a little video. That was real. I was playing CT Fletcher in the background, and I was literally listening to what he said. When I started pumping it, like, I'm going 4-5. Like, I was like, piece of cake. I think I did 350 for a few reps, and it's probably still up on my social. But that's while I was injured, that's when I really, really got into him.
All right.
And again, I can't thank you enough, because that motivated me. You 1,000% helped me get through that. Because, man, that shoulder surgery sucked.
Yeah, I remember.
Recovery sucked. And like I said, I would listen to, when I could just curl, I literally would just curl all day.
Yeah.
First said, all you do is curl. I would curl all day, every day.
We're gonna get you some of these shirts in the mail. You be working them arms over there.
Hey, throw up a bicep for me. Oh shit! Now look at him. He look like that T-shirt. Right?
Well, I'm gonna say this. You said coming out to the gym. So if you were gonna be part of this AEW show here in Los Angeles, you and Bobby got to come out to Iron Addicts Gym where y'all are here.
Okay.
We would love to have y'all in studio. Bobby said he's coming in studio. He flat out said, I ain't doing the show not unless I'm coming in studio. So we'll have Bobby Lashley here. We would love to have Shelton Benjamin here. Matter of fact, the whole Hurt Syndicate is invited if y'all gonna be here, because I would love to have MVP on this damn show too. But you guys are more than welcome.
Make that happen.
Well, shit, hell yeah. We're going to make that happen. So, Mr. Benjamin, we've taken up a lot of your time already. We appreciate you so much for being a part of the F Y'all podcast. Any closing words? I'm gonna let you close this one out, bro.
No, I just have so much respect for Mr. Benjamin. I appreciate for you guys that don't know, we don't have a budget on the Fuck Y'all podcast. So Mr. Benjamin showed up for no money, gave us over an hour and a half of his time. So I will be forever grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the best athlete I ever seen in the wrestling ring, The one and only Mr. Shelton Benjamin on the F Y'all podcast.
Hell yeah.
All right. Hang tight, Mr. Benjamin. But before we get out of here, of course, we got to talk about Iron Addicts Brands. All your official CT Fletcher merchandise can be found on ironaddictsbrands.com. If you're not getting it from ironaddictsbrands.com, the shit is a fake. And we don't want you walking around in fake CT Fletcher gear. So get you some official CT Fletcher merchandise at ironaddictsbrands.com. Also, F Y'all podcast merch. If you can see on the other side of him, we got that. That link will be in the bio of the YouTube channel and also Instagram. You can go to merchlabs.com/F Y'all podcast and get all your F Y'all podcast merch with my sexy face and his ugly ass on the front of it. So go on to get you. I just wanted to see what you was going to say. But go get you some F Y'all podcast merch, and we hope to see you guys at Iron Wars next week. Also, the LA Fit Expo. I think that's all we got.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the F Y'all podcast with the one and only Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin. I'm talking crazy. Shelton Benjamin. Jeez Louise. And we're going to end this show like we do every show.
Fuck y'all.